Welcome to the Live Like Eden podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm thrilled that you're here. Years ago, out of nowhere, I found myself in a radical shift in consciousness that took me over 20 years to fully wrap my head around. Yes, that's right. It took me a long time, and without any warning, down the rabbit hole of darkness I went. Now I'm here to share with you all the insights of awakening, spirituality, health, the energetic world we're living in, and my absolute favorite topic, just how crazy the ego mind can be. These subjects are designed to help you understand the awakening process, to open your mind, and prepare you for your own unique spiritual journey toward inner peace. So I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's discussion. Before we get started with today's show, I want to share with you something I've been working on. I have created a quiz just for you to see where you are on your own unique spiritual path. Everybody loves a quiz, right? You can go to my website at livelikeeden.com, click on the quiz pop-up, and answer 10 quick questions. You'll get an immediate response emailed to you with your results, a personalized podcast playlist including 5 Live Like Eden episodes that will offer you assistance where you currently are. And I've also thrown in a few bonus episodes that you'll receive a few days later. If you're a spiritual junkie, you're in the midst of awakening, or you're simply curious where you might be in your own spiritual process, check it out and feel free to share with your friends who might be interested too. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another show. I am really excited to talk today about growth. This is a word that is everywhere. Your personal growth, your spiritual growth, improve yourself as a person. It's huge, right? I'm sure you guys could pop on social media right now as I'm talking and just start scrolling, and you'll have somebody talking about join this movement for personal growth or join this workshop, improve yourself, right? It's a big, big, big industry. And I want to get into today the difference between personal growth and the soul, or spiritual growth. A lot of people use that word, that the soul is growing. And I really want to talk about it in depth because I don't think many of us really think about it. I don't think we think enough about this because we're living in a world where concepts and words and groupthink dominates. We just sort of listen to what others are saying and sometimes don't even think about what is actually being said. The whole point of the show today is just to get you to think about personal growth, what it really means, and what is the difference between growth versus spiritual awakening. This is the essence of the show. And I want to point out how dramatically different these two things really are. So let's start off with just looking at what is personal growth. There's a huge human potential movement out there that's probably a billions and billions of dollar industry every year. Lots and lots of motivational speakers, lots of workshops. I mean, you could just spend a lot of time in this department. And there's nothing wrong with it. If you are having trouble in your life and you're looking to improve your life, you might head down this path, right? Start working on yourself. A lot of people say, well, I'm really working on myself. But I want to point out that personal growth is very much about building up our own identities, right? It's about building up who we think we are. And that's the key word, who we think we are. The ego is very tricky and it inserts itself into this personal growth area. There's also another concept that says the soul is learning, right? How many of you hear this? Your soul is learning and it's learning all the time. It's evolving and growing. And that's why you keep coming back. You keep reincarnating because your soul still needs to learn. You still need to learn more. You need to have more lessons. And I've pointed out in many shows before how this is a kind of an endless cycle. It seems that the reincarnation is sort of a constant cycle of time over and over and over. And then you have to ask, is there an end point? If I'm just learning all the time and growing, it's almost as if there's this preconceived idea that it's a continual, never-ending growth. It's just constant evolution with no real end or stopping to this whole concept of growth or spiritual growth. And you hear this a lot in the New Age movement. You're growing spiritually. And a lot of people believe that. I believe that a lot of people believe that they're just growing and growing and growing. And there's nothing wrong with looking at it like that. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I simply want to point out a completely different vantage point. The vantage point for spiritual awakening is vastly different than bettering oneself or building up an identity. It's the exact opposite. Spiritual awakening is about the unraveling of a false self, that ego identity that we all believe ourselves to be. That's what the whole process of true spiritual awakening is. Waking up from the illusion of a self, not only of the self, but of the entire world that we believe that we're living in. That's a completely different concept, right? It's a very different concept than spiritual growth. They're totally different. One is building up and the other is dissolving. Very different. One of them sells a lot of workshops, building up. What can I achieve, attain, and get better at? And what are the ways that I can do that? Here's all the steps you take to do it. Take my class, I'll show you how to do it. And spiritual awakening is saying exactly the opposite. Nobody wants to hear that, oh, one day I'm going to completely wake up from all this. I know, right? It's like devastating to that ego side of your mind. And that's the key thing to remember here. It's devastating to the identity that we become so attached to while we're in this world without even knowing it. The only time you start unknowing it is when your world starts to shift. When the rumbling from within starts to move and your identity starts to fade, then you start recognizing, oh no, maybe I'm not that identity that I believed myself to be. Maybe that's not true. And then everything starts to unravel and dissolve over time. But it's a process, and it's a completely different thing than working on spiritual development, spiritual growth, or personal growth, or human potential. They are vastly different things. Nothing is right or wrong. It's just a different thing. To get specific about things for a minute, when you're talking about personal growth, it's very ego-driven. It's really all about the ego. The ego is the dominant factor here. The ego is seeking what? Typically, success. Be successful. And the definition of success is different for every person. In our world, it's typically evolving around finances, right? That somehow, if you make a lot of money, that means you're successful. Like in our world, and the ego does a really good job of pushing that because we need money to live here, right? Personal growth is looking to typically set goals. You're going to set a goal and you're going to achieve that goal. And then once you achieve that goal, there's more to improve upon, right? In that concept, there's more to get, more to gain. I can always do better. I can always improve. And my soul, if we're looking at it from the spiritual growth perspective, my soul is just going to continue to grow. The more I do, the more I grow, the more the soul benefits. Now, to the contrary, from the spiritual awakening perspective, all of those concepts fade away. Everything you think about achievement, about gaining and getting something, what the spiritual side of things is showing you is that you're never satisfied with the ego in charge. Never. There's always more. You're always wanting what you don't have. And if you do get what you want, then you're on to the next thing. I got to attain more. I got to get the next thing. I got to get that next achievement, that next medal, that next certificate, that next degree. And it's never ending. You see where I'm going? The ego's got a never-ending cycle. There is no end game. It's a constant repetitive game over and over and over, where spiritual awakening is saying, hello, your soul is already pure, perfect, and whole, and it's a replica or a memory of your real home in God or the Godhead. What is true? What is real? There is no need for soul improvement. How could that even be possible? The spiritual side of things is saying, hello, if the soul is perfect, what are you improving upon? Spiritually speaking, nothing, right? What's happening is the mind is taking over. The ego mind's taking over, and it's making all of us believe that we need to evolve spiritually. But spiritual awakening is saying, no, that's not what's happening. Your soul is already there, perfect and whole. You are not broken, but your mind is making you believe that. And so you're running around chasing goals and achievements and all these things in the world when your reality is sitting here the entire time. And in order to see that, the layers, just like an onion, you're peeling back all these layers, these things that are not true, the things that the ego has conditioned us to believe for lifetimes, not just now, lifetimes, over and over. The conditioning is so deep. And spiritual awakening is showing you this. And that's why it's kind of a devastating thing that happens to the mind. When you start waking up from this, it's devastating. It isn't all bells and whistles and bliss. You don't need to sit on the mountaintop and attain bliss all day long. It's actually devastating to your mind. But it's leading you somewhere so much better. It's leading you to that state of trust with spirit, that everything is fine. Everything around me is fine. Even when it looks chaotic, even when people are freaking out all the time, I'm still perfectly whole in my spiritual self right now, no matter what's happening on the outside. Now, some people may not agree with that. They say, no, I'm not okay. Everything's horrible. Yeah, because the mind believes that. The ego mind is very, very powerful. So powerful that we keep grabbing a hold of it all the time. It's so powerful that it inserts itself into spirituality. It inserts itself into religion. It inserts itself into the New Age movement. It inserts itself everywhere. And when you begin to see this, you are truly starting to wake up. When you see the inner weavings of how the ego operates, it's kind of like when somebody wants to infiltrate something and change it from within. That's what the ego is. It's an infiltrator. It's infiltrating everywhere. So you could say the two big differences or the two key words to think about when you're talking about personal growth or spiritual growth and spiritual awakening is spiritual growth is all about improvement. Something needs improving. And usually it's the soul. The soul needs improvement. Spiritual awakening is about freedom, liberation from that system. It's a liberation of mind. It's a totally different thing. Now, this does not mean that if you have a problem in your life and you need to go improve something, you should absolutely do that. This conversation is not about not working on things in the world, things you need to do, things you need to do better in your life. This isn't about that. It's about differentiating between what that is and what awakening to truth is. One of them is continuously improving and building upon something, growing it, making it more. And the other one is dissolving everything about that system, completely letting go of all of it, total, complete surrender to the Godhead. Eventually, everything disappears in your home, in your true nature, in God. That's why I love the title of this show today, Growth or God? Which one? Are you growing? Or are you remembering something that's always with you? It's just like the title of this podcast, Live Like Eden. Eden is the symbol of home. That's all. It's simple. It's not about going and looking for the real Garden of Eden or anything like that. It's just simply remembering home. When you think of spirituality in this way, it's so much lighter, isn't it? It doesn't have to be this complicated system of rules and dogmas. And if I do this wrong, I'm going to go to hell, or it's just a nightmare. It could be so simple. And I think that it really is simple. It's just hard to put into practice because we are really so attached to our minds. That's really what it boils down to. Recognizing how attached you are to your own ego mind. It's very deep. But when this process of awakening begins, you can't unsee or you can't undo what's already occurred, right? Things that shift in your life to wake you up, you can't unsee it. When you go down the rabbit hole, there's no getting out of it. You just have to go through it. It's like you don't climb out the same hole and go back to the way things used to be. You go through it all the way to the other side into a brand new perspective, a brand new perception of the world. You're completely different on the inside and you see things clearer, recognizing that this world is not what I thought it was. Then there's a sigh of relief almost because it's like, well, thank God. Once you see what it really is, it's like, oh, there's got to be something so much greater than all of this mess. And that's what spiritual awakening is doing. It's waking you up to that. that you are not what you think you are. And there is a real perfection and home in God that doesn't look like it's here in this world, does it? So where do we get this idea of growth or soul growth? Where does it come from? Like, seriously, where does this whole concept of the soul needing to learn lessons come from? You could turn on any new age, anything, and that is a main theme, that the soul's growing. You're just here coming back for more lessons. Well, there's a part of me that goes, I don't buy that. You're telling me we all have to come back to this place a gazillion times to keep learning a lesson between me and Joe Schmo over there? Like, I don't know. Part of me is like, there's something else I'm not seeing. There's something else I'm not getting, because it doesn't seem to be a God would create a world with such chaos and send you through tiny little lessons over and over and over again. And then there's no end point. You just keep doing it. So I'm offering a different perspective. I'm offering a simpler perspective, one that A Course in Miracles says, if those of you that read it, exactly what it says. And you will begin to see why it's not a popular textbook. Most people do the workbook. The text is very different. And you'll begin to see why people change the narrative of it too, because it's a scary thought, what it's saying. If none of this is really true, that's kind of scary for our ego mind. But when you get to that liberated side of it, right? If the end game for spiritual awakening is true liberation from this illusory world and a return to your natural state in God, isn't that amazing? Like, isn't there a side of everybody that should go, oh, it's so wonderful. But we're so concerned with the world, bettering ourselves, bettering everything here, that we're so sidetracked, we totally miss and forget who we really are. And you can see why. It's a beautiful playbook. The ego is really good at its craft. But where did this come from? And you could look back that it's in religion. It's in Buddhism, their whole concept of reincarnation, that you just keep doing your lessons until you reach enlightenment. It's like, that could take eons. Clearly, I mean, we've been here eons, it seems. Do any of you ever feel like you've been here before a million times? You know, I'm at this point in my life sometimes where it's like, I just feel like I've done this way too many times. And it's time. It's time to move on, you know. I hope that those of you listening can laugh and see it that way, because it does seem monotonous. Like, what's the point of reincarnating all the time? And people will say, oh, it's just consciousness expressing itself. Yes, bingo. It's expressing itself individually as separation over and over again so that it doesn't wake up to truth. You know, that can be a hard pill to swallow, I guess, for a lot of us, but it's also incredibly freeing. And everything in your life feels so much lighter when you begin to see this. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to know that there must be something else. There must be something so much greater than what my eyes are projecting in front of me. All of these systems, right, whether it's religion or New Age spirituality, you know, the whole reincarnation, they all seem mythical to me because they're all pushing a narrative that says the soul is somehow incomplete. This is our school where we are growing and learning. Now, I want to flip this a little bit and say, yeah, it's a school, but it's a school for unlearning when you begin the awakening process. If you think of it, and I've said this before, if we've all fallen from God, you know, let's say there's some truth in the Bible. We've all fallen from God, fell away, separated from God. You can argue how that happened, but let's just say it's true. Let's say we all fell away, and now we're in our own individual identities in a world separated from everybody else doing our thing, whatever that is today, right? When we're living with the ego's system, or this concept of improving ourselves and learning and growing, it's almost as if we keep moving away from home because we're bettering ourselves in a world and continuing the cycle over and over and over. That's what the world is doing all the time. We all do it. It's just the normal thing here. But when you begin to wake up from all that and this awakening process hits you and you realize that there's a home in God elsewhere, and all these things that begin to happen, whether it's mental, physical symptoms, all the strange things that happen as you wake up, it feels very strange. You're almost in a state of disorientation. It's like, wait, what is happening? I feel so different than I used to feel, and I don't know why. I feel like I'm losing my mind, losing myself, losing my identity. And psychology will give a bunch of different disorders for that. But what if it's true that we really aren't what we think we are? What if it's not a disorder? What if it's actually a clue into a much bigger game, you know? And it's the clue that's guiding you home. It's the clue that's taking you back from the separated world, from that division that we've created between ourselves and God, and we're returning home, liberating ourselves from the mind and returning to the soul that's already whole, that perfect replica of home that's already there. And all the layers that will peel back, all the illusions of the world, all of it melts away until that bright light inside is sitting there, just like it always was. It's like I've said before many times, it's almost like we have blankets covering this memory inside of us. It's just one blanket after another. And then when we get really rooted in our identity, we build a concrete wall around it, and then armor. We've got armed guards at the gate. There's the gatekeepers making sure we don't see that spiritual essence. The ego does all of this. It's like there's the treasure box of who we truly are sitting within us that's been covered up for apparently a really long time. Or the key to that treasure box was just tossed in the ocean, never to be seen again. Until one day the waves bring that key to shore and you realize that you have the key to open that treasure box. You are empowered to do so. And this sparks a completely new way of being in the world. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how does this even help me, right? You're thinking, crap, I do all this self-improvement. I'm bettering myself. I want to be a better person. I want my soul to grow, all these things. And now, if I'm looking at it from a different perspective, where if my soul is perfectly fine, then what the hell am I doing in all this, right? You might say that. Some people might say that, like, what is the point of doing all this? What I would say to that is everything that you do in your life is a stepping stone, no matter what it is. Don't label it. Whatever you're doing is leading you to the next thing, wherever that's supposed to take you. So you could look at it as a guide. It's a guidepost taking you to a new place. You might dabble around in that world for a long time until eventually something else clicks and you feel attracted to something else, something that wakes you up more spiritually. That, oh, I now need to think about everything as more of an undoing or an unraveling or a dissolving of something that's already pure. I'm not broken. My mind's a mess. Let's just point out the obvious, right? It has nothing to do with the soul. It's all about the mind. The mind is the powerhouse here. It's creating everything. It's convincing us of story after story after story in our minds, every single moment of every day. And when you get clear that that's what your mind is, then you can step out of it and watch it and laugh a little bit more, because it does start to become comical. But when you're rooted in it and the awareness isn't quite there yet, it's devastating, right? It makes you full of anxiety and worry. Then you start telling yourself one thing after the next, and all of a sudden you've walked yourself off the cliff. You're dead. How many of you do that? How many of you witness this story that your identity is going to tell you? And what spiritual awakening is offering you is a way to observe all of that as untrue. It's an unlearning process. When you begin to wake up, you're in the classroom of unlearning. Everything you thought to be real, everything you thought to be true, so that you can get to that essence, the core within you, the spiritual center that will eventually lead us home. So I hope this helps you think about this concept of how can a soul that's already perfect and whole need improvement? I hope that you think about that. How or why would it need to improve? If you believe that the soul is imperfect, which is what religion is teaching, that you're imperfect, you're born as an original sinner immediately, day one, no choice, I'm a sinner. I'm already breaking the rules, apparently. I know. I don't remember coming back here, but I'm here again, and now they're telling me and preaching to me that I'm a natural born sinner, and I need to erase all my sins. I got to do all these things. I need to do this and that to get into the kingdom, and I need to improve that soul that's already a problem, apparently. But I have to be honest here. Do you really think that a perfect, whole, loving God, in whatever capacity you think about that, I'm not sure we can truly know this. We're not there. We're here. But if it's true, for argument's sake, that the Godhead is the totality of perfection, of all that is, why in the world would it create something that's completely out of control? Why would it do such a thing? Why would it give you this option to go into an insane world and act like a nutcase half your life until you wake up and get it? That'd be like an insane God to me. You want to see that happen? You want to see people go through hell? Literally? Some people have such struggle and go through the most horrific things you could possibly imagine, right? That happens in this world. It happens all the time. And to think that it's just free will, that a God said, well, go do what you want and start killing each other, I don't know. There's always this side of me that just doesn't buy it. At a very young age, even, it's like, I don't know, I'm missing something. And that's the key. I think what it really is, it's a light bulb goes off inside of you that there's something I'm not getting. And now I've recognized that maybe I've been doing this a really long time, but I'm still not getting it. I just don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm missing. And that's what spiritual awakening is all about. It's bringing you to that core essence of truth inside. It's pulling and pulling and pulling you there, even when you don't want to go, even when you're kicking and screaming, right? Even when you're like, I do not want to go any further. I can't do it anymore. It's still going to show you. So you can think of personal growth and development and improvement and spiritual growth and all these terms that you hear all the time could also be looked at as a movement that's pulling you forward into something. You just never get there, right? When you're looking at it from the spiritual awakening side of things, when you're waking up from all of that, it's pulling you homeward. You're going forward or homeward? Where are we going? Where are we growing, actually? I do have to question that. When you're talking about growth, there seems like I'm always having to get more. I'm growing more and more, but there's never an actual end point to that, it seems. And if it's true that we return home to God, then there is an end point. There is an end to all of this. It's the end of the illusion, the end of the dream, as A Course in Miracles teaches. It's the learning versus the unlearning. It's about gaining more knowledge or not knowing anything. It's about more practices, more spiritual practices, more rules to complete and total liberation from all of that and into a relationship with your spiritual center, a relationship with the wiser intelligence that's leading you out of the mess. Those two things are vastly different. Now, how does this help you in your life, practically speaking? How do you apply this? Does it mean you just stop doing everything? Well, if none of it matters, I don't think I need to do anything. I'm just going to sit and I'm going to watch Netflix forever. And I'm saying, well, you could watch Netflix and be completely and totally aware of what your mind is doing, of what you're witnessing. The awareness is still with you. You can do everything you do every day in the world. You don't stop living. You don't stop improving things that need improvement. But you understand on a very deep level that there's more. That awakening is not about personal improvement or growth. It's about dissolving that entire system. Awakening is really and truly bringing you out of something you believe to be real and true and waking you up to the Godhead. And they're different. They're different things. But while you're here in the world, you just live. Be normal. You don't have to do anything different than you do all the time. Again, everything's a stepping stone to get you to see differently. So if you start adopting that side of things, well, this is just my next step until I'm waking up more and I'm waking up more. And then eventually, the rest is up to God, pulling us home. I hope this helps you understand kind of the difference between personal growth or spiritual growth versus spiritual awakening. They're very different. And when you truly enter an awakening process, you're going to know it. And you want to know how you're going to know it? Everything comes into question. Everything. Nothing is off the table. There's not like, oh, no, my spiritual growth is not part of that. That's still whole. I'm holding on to that. No, everything will be brought to your attention. Everything of the world. If you think about it in this way, if everything is truly an illusion, then everything must be brought to light. Everything. And that's like handing it over to spirit, handing your life over to something greater, letting go, surrendering to this, living in the flow of life is okay. It's okay. If I get the next best thing, cool, I did it, great. But I'm still staying connected to my spiritual essence, to that wisdom within me. And I'm sticking to the unlearning, the not knowing where I'm going next. And that doesn't mean I don't plan my life either. That doesn't mean that I don't live and plan ahead. You have to in this world. If you didn't have a plan ever, I don't know how you get anything done, right? You still have to do the world. So be yourself in the world, but understand underneath that these concepts are very, very different. I hope this makes you think critically for yourself. It's always my intention with these shows is to leave you with questions, to leave you with the ability to think freely, to think for yourself, go through your own process, see what life is teaching you. What is your own awakening teaching you? What are you unlearning today? So on that note, maybe think about one thing today that you unlearned, and I'll see you next week. That'll wrap up today's show. Until next time, I invite you to check out my website at livelikeeden.com. You can sign up for a weekly email reminder when my new podcast and blog comes out, which is every Wednesday. If you are struggling with your own awakening process and you need further assistance or guidance, you can also sign up for a free consult, and I would be more than happy to work with you. If you're enjoying the show, I ask that you share it with others that you think it might benefit. Until next time, thank you so much for listening.